My name is Lysander Holt, and at 34 I thought I had built something solid in Savannah, Georgia. I'd been working as a marketing consultant for 8 years, carving out a reputation that opened doors across the Southeast. My wife, Serafina, and I lived in a restored Victoria near Forsyth Park, and I genuinely believed we were building a life together. Her brother Cashin ran his own consulting firm downtown, and we'd often collaborate on projects. From the outside, we looked like the perfect professional family. But something had been eating away at me for months. I kept getting sick. Not the usual flu or food poisoning. These were episodes that landed me in Memorial Health University Medical Center with symptoms that baffled doctors. Severe nausea, dizziness, heart palpitations that made my chest feel like it might explode. The ER physicians would run blood panels, EKGs, the works. Every time they'd scratch their heads and send me home with discharge papers that essentially said mystery illness. The timing was what really bothered me. These episodes always seemed to hit right before crucial business meetings. I'd missed 3 major client presentations in the past 4 months, including a make-or break-hack pitch for Henderson Industries, a manufacturing contract worth over $600,000 annually. Each hospitalization meant canceled meetings, rescheduled calls, and clients who started questioning my reliability. In consulting, your reputation is everything, and mine was taking hits I couldn't afford. Serafina would hover at my bedside, all-concerned wife, bringing me homemade soups and herbal teas. "Maybe it's stress, honey," she'd say, stroking my hair. "You've been pushing yourself so hard lately." Cashin would show up too, shaking his head sympathetically. "Man, you really need to slow down. This workaholic thing is going to kill you." If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. The pattern became impossible to ignore. I'd feel fine, then attend some family gathering or business lunch that Serafina had organized, and within hours I'd be doubled over in agony. The doctors kept suggesting everything from anxiety disorders to genetic predispositions to rare autoimmune conditions. But I'd been healthy my entire adult life. This wasn't genetics or stress. This was something else entirely. That Sunday morning in February 2025 changed everything. Cashin was hosting one of his elegant brunches at his mansion in the historic district. These were networking events disguised as family gatherings where Savannah's business elite would sip mimosas and discuss deals over Eggs Benedict. I usually enjoyed these affairs, but I'd been dreading this one all week. Something in my gut, and by then I'd learned to trust my gut told me to be careful. The morning was perfect Georgia weather, warm but not humid yet. Cashin's house buzzed with conversation as mayor's office staffers mingled with bank vice presidents and real estate developers. I was discussing potential partnership with a tourism board executive when Serafina appeared at my elbow carrying 2 delicate china cups on matching saucers. "Your coffee, darling," she said, handing me one cup with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The aroma hit me immediately. Rich dark roast, but underneath something else, something metallic and sharp that made my nostrils flare with warning. I took the cup, nodded my thanks. But every instinct I developed in 8 years of reading people and situations was screaming at me. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This was survival. I stood there holding the cup, watching steam rise from the dark liquid while my mind raced through possibilities. The metallic smell was faint but unmistakable, like pennies left in water or blood mixed with copper. In my line of work, you learn to read situations quickly, to trust your instincts when something feels off. This felt very off. Serafina had moved away to chat with the wife of a city councilman, her laugh ringing out across the marble-floored foyer. She seemed relaxed, carefree even, but I noticed she hadn't touched her own coffee yet. Despite carrying an identical cup, that detail lodged in my brain like a splinter. The conversation around me continued. Talk of upcoming development projects, the new cruise terminal downtown, someone's vacation house on Thai Island. I nodded and smiled, playing the part of the engaged guest while calculating my next move. Years of high-stakes client negotiations had taught me the value of patience and strategic thinking. If I was right about what was happening here, I needed proof, not just suspicion. Cashin appeared beside me, his usual confident smile in place. At 36, he'd always been the golden boy of the Ward family, tall, charismatic, with a kind of easy charm that opened doors in Savannah's old money circles. He'd built a consulting firm by leveraging family connections and inherited trust funds, while I clawed my way up through pure competence and relentless work ethic. "How's business, Lysander?" he asked, but his eyes weren't focused on my face. They kept darting to the cup of my hands. "I heard you had to postpone the Henderson Industries presentation again. That's got to be frustrating." The way he said it sent ice through my veins, not sympathetic, satisfied, like he was enjoying my professional struggles. "Yeah, well, health comes first," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Though, it's interesting how these episodes always seem to hit at the worst possible moments. Something flickered across his expression. Just for a second, but I caught it. Guilt, maybe, or fear. "That's just bad luck," he said quickly. "You should really see a specialist. Maybe someone at Johns Hopkins or Emory. Get to the bottom of whatever's going on." I lifted the cup toward my lips, watching both him and Serafina from the corner of my eye. Her conversation had stopped mid-sentence, and she was staring at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Cashin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. They were both waiting for something. That's when I made my move. I'd been involved in drama productions in college before switching to business, and some skills never leave you. With the fluid grace of someone simply adjusting their position in a crowded room, I pivoted slightly to my left, using a passing waiter as cover. In that split second of visual obstruction, I swapped my cup with the one sitting on a nearby side table. Serafina's cup, the one she'd been too distracted to drink from. The switch took less than 3 seconds. When the waiter moved past, I was holding a cup that looked identical to the one I'd had before. But this one smelled like actual coffee. Rich, aromatic, normal. No metallic undertone. No chemical sharpness that made my nervous system scream warnings. I raised the new cup to my lips and took a long, deliberate sip. It tasted exactly like it should. Dark roast with a hint of Corey, the kind Cashin always served at these gatherings. Meanwhile, my original cup sat on the side table where I'd left it, still untouched. "Excellent coffee," I told Cashin, taking another drink. "Where do you get it?" "Oh, just some local roaster downtown," he said absently, but his attention was split. He kept glancing toward where Serafina stood, still engaged in conversation, but clearly keeping one eye on me. Waiting. 15 minutes passed. I mingled, discussed a potential collaboration with a hotel marketing manager, complimented someone's wife on her jewelry, normal brunch behavior. But the atmosphere had changed subtly. Cashin seemed increasingly agitated, checking his Apple Watch every few minutes. Serafina had excused herself from her conversation and was working her way back toward us, her smile looking more strained with each step. 20 minutes. Then 25. That's when Serafina made her fatal mistake. She reached for a coffee cup, the one I'd been holding originally, and took a large swallow without hesitation. The same cup she'd handed me with that metallic smell, the one she'd been avoiding all morning. She must have assumed I had already drunk from it, that it was safe now, or maybe she was just too nervous to think clearly. The effect was almost immediate. Her face went pale first, then flushed deep red. She tried to set the cup down, but her hand was shaking so violently that china rattled against a marble table. I don't feel," she started to say, then doubled over as if someone had punched her in the stomach. The entire room turned to stare as my wife of 4 years collapsed to her knees on Cashin's expensive Persian rug, retching violently. Her carefully applied makeup ran down her face in streaky rivers as she gasped for air between waves of nausea. "Serafina!" Cashin shouted, rushing to her side. But his panic wasn't the concern of a loving brother-in-law. It was the terror of someone watching a carefully laid plan implode in real time. I already had my iPhone out, finger poised over the record button. In the chaos of the moment, with everyone focused on Serafina's distress, no one noticed me start recording. The audio quality was perfect. Every gasped word, every panicked exchange between Cashin and my writhing wife. "What did you put in it?" Serafina wheezed, staring up at her brother with wild eyes. You said the dose was shut up." Cashin hissed, glancing around desperately. Just Jesus, Sarah. Shut up. But she was beyond controlling herself now. Whatever substance they'd been using on me was hitting her system hard, and pain had stripped away her ability to maintain their charade. The Henderson contract. She gasped between retches. We were so close. Why won't he just die? The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Why won't he just die? Even through her agony, Serafina seemed to realize what she'd just said. Her eyes found mine across the room, wide with horror at her own confession. But it was too late. My phone had captured every syllable. The other guests were backing away now, unsure whether to help or flee. A woman from the Historical Society was fumbling for her own phone, probably calling 911. The mayor's aide stood frozen by the French doors, champagne flute still in hand. This wasn't the kind of scandal Savannah's elite were equipped to handle. Cashin was on his knees beside Serafina trying to whisper something in her ear, but she was convulsing now. Her designer dress was soaked with sweat and worse. Whatever they'd been poisoning me with, it was designed to cause maximum suffering. Call an ambulance, I announced loudly, though someone already had. Then I knelt down beside my wife, my voice calm and measured. What did you take, Serafina? The doctors need to know what's in your system. She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. Lysander, I'm sorry. We never meant. What? I kept my phone recording angled, so it captured both her face and Cashin's panic. The doses were supposed to be smaller. She gasped, just enough to make you sick. Miss the meetings. Lose the Henderson contract. Cashin grabbed her arm. Sarah, stop talking. Don't say another word until we get a lawyer. But pain makes people honest in ways comfort never can. He kept the real stuff in his office safe. She continued, ignoring her brother's desperate attempts to silence her. The pharmaceutical samples from his friend at the CDC. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Cashin had connections throughout Georgia's business community, including contacts at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. He'd been using experimental compounds, probably industrial testing samples that weren't meant for human consumption. That explained why the doctors couldn't identify what was making me sick. They weren't looking for cutting-edge research chemicals. The ambulance arrived within minutes, paramedics rushing in with gurneys and equipment. I immediately approached the lead EMT, a middle-aged black woman with calm, professional eyes. I need to tell you something important, I said, showing her my phone. My wife just confessed to poisoning me repeatedly over the past several months. She accidentally ingested the same substance today. I have audio recording of her confession, and I believe the source materials are in her brother's office safe. She looked at me sharply, then at Serafina being loaded onto the stretcher. What kind of substance are we talking about? Pharmaceutical testing compounds. According to what she just admitted, her brother has connections at the CDC. This isn't recreational drugs or household chemicals. This is research-grade material. The paramedic immediately radioed this information to the hospital, requesting a toxicology team and alerting them to expect unusual compounds. She also contacted the police as protocol demanded for suspected poisoning cases. As they wheeled Serafina out, she grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Please, she whispered. I love you. The money. We need it. I looked down at her. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 4 years and felt nothing but cold calculation. You needed what, Serafina? To kill me for a consulting contract. Not kill, she protested weakly. Just make you unreliable so Henderson would come to Cashin instead. Even in her confession, she was trying to minimize what they'd done. But I had it all on recording now. Attempted murder disguised as career sabotage. The police arrived as the ambulance pulled away. Detective Maria Santos, a woman I knew casually from Chamber of Commerce events, took my initial statement, while crime scene techs photographed everything. I handed over my phone with the recording, explaining the timeline of mysterious illnesses and their correlation with business meetings. Mr. Ward, she said to Cashin, who was trying to blend into the crowd of remaining guests, we're going to need to search your premises, started with that office safe your sister mentioned. Cashin's face went ashen. I want my lawyer present for any search. That's your right. Detective Santos replied calmly. But I'm also placing you under arrest as an accessory to attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent. The warrant came through within hours. By that evening, investigators had found exactly what Serafina's confession had promised: a collection of unmarked vials containing experimental compounds, detailed notes about dosages and timing, and even a calendar marking the dates of my hospitalizations alongside notation about missed business meetings. But the most damning evidence was digital. Cashin's laptop contained months of text messages between him and Serafina, planning each poisoning incident with the cold precision of a military operation. Elle has the Henderson Industries presentation Tuesday. Read one message from Serafina. Coffee at 8 a.m. Cashin's response. Double dose this time. He's building tolerance. They've been treating my gradual murder like a science experiment, adjusting variables and monitoring results. The messages showed they'd researched my schedule, identified crucial business meetings, and timed their attacks for maximum professional damage. It wasn't just about killing me. It was about destroying my reputation first, ensuring that even if I survived, my career would be in ruins. The hospital toxicology report confirmed everything. My blood contained traces of 3 different experimental compounds, including a neural disruptor that explained the cognitive fog I'd been experiencing during meetings. Serafina had received a massive dose of all 3, concentrated enough to cause a violent reaction that exposed their entire scheme. The trial was a media sensation in Savannah. 2 prominent local business figures arrested for the attempted murder of a family member made headlines across Georgia. The evidence was overwhelming. Audio recordings, text messages, physical evidence from the office safe, medical records correlating my hospitalizations with their documented poisoning schedule. Their defense attorney tried to argue that they never intended to kill me, only to make me temporarily ill, but the prosecution brought in expert witnesses who testified that the compounds found in Cashin's safe were potentially lethal in the doses they'd been administering. One toxicologist testified that I was likely weeks away from permanent organ damage or death. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts: attempted murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and criminal conspiracy. The judge sentenced them each to 25 years in federal prison, without possibility of parole for 15 years. As they were led away in handcuffs, Serafina looked back at me one last time. I met her gaze with the same calm expression I'd worn throughout the entire ordeal. She'd tried to poison me slowly, professionally, systematically. I'd responded by letting the truth poison her instead. 3 months later, in May 2025, I received an unexpected call. Robert Henderson, CEO of Henderson Industries, had been following the case in the business news. "Mr. Holt," he said, his voice warm but professional, "I've been thinking about that presentation you missed. Would you be interested in rescheduling?" I almost laughed. "Mr. Henderson, I appreciate the gesture, but I imagine my reputation in Savannah isn't exactly what you want to associate with your company." "On the contrary," he replied, "what I read in those news reports tells me exactly who you are. Someone tried to destroy you using the most underhanded methods imaginable, and you responded with integrity and legal channels. That's precisely the kind of character we want representing Henderson Industries." The meeting took place 2 weeks later in Henderson's Atlanta headquarters. Not only did they award me the original contract, but they increased it to $750,000 annually. More importantly, they introduced me to their parent company's network, opening doors to 3 additional manufacturing clients. By July, my consulting firm had expanded to handle marketing for 5 companies with combined annual billings, reaching $1.8 million. I moved my office to a renovated space in Savannah's downtown business district, hired 2 junior associates, and began turning away potential clients, a luxury I'd never imagined 6 months earlier. The personal cost had been significant. My marriage was over, obviously, and the Victorian house near Forsyth Park held too many toxic memories. I sold it and moved to a modern loft downtown, creating physical distance from the past. Some friendships didn't survive the scandal, though I learned to value quality over quantity in relationships. But perhaps the most unexpected outcome was an invitation to speak at business conferences about crisis management and maintaining integrity under pressure. My first presentation was at the Coastal Georgia Business Summit in August, where I talked about recognizing warning signs and trusting professional instincts. The audience response was overwhelmingly positive. Afterward, Patricia Coleman from the Georgia Chamber of Commerce approached me. "Lysander, would you consider being our keynote speaker for the annual Savannah Business Leaders Conference? Your story illustrates something important about resilience and character that our members need to hear." I accepted, understanding that sharing my experience could help other business professionals recognize similar threats. The conference was scheduled for early fall, giving me time to craft a presentation that would be educational rather than sensational. On a warm evening in late August, I sat on my loft balcony overlooking the Savannah River, reviewing my notes for the upcoming keynote. My phone buzzed with a text from one of my new clients confirming details for a major product launch campaign worth over $200,000. The mathematics of justice had played out in ways I couldn't have predicted. Serafina and Cashin had tried to steal a $600,000 contract by destroying my health and reputation. Instead, their actions ultimately led to business opportunities worth nearly $2 million annually. They'd attempted to poison my career along with my body, but the antidote turned out to be the truth itself. As the sun set over the water, casting golden light across the city's historic spires, I reflected on how dramatically life could change in just 6 months. From suspicious coffee at a family brunch to building the most successful consulting practice in Savannah's recent history. The best revenge I'd learned wasn't elaborate schemes or emotional retaliation. It was simply becoming the person you were meant to be despite others' attempts to destroy you. Success built on integrity tend to compound, while schemes built on deception invariably collapse under their own weight. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. But tonight, I was content knowing that truth had prevailed in the most literal sense possible, and that sometimes the best way to defeat poison is simply to refuse to drink it. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment telling us what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive alerts for new stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.